History Podcast. It is Wednesday, August 19th, 2020, and we are jamming out to The Cars by Gary Newman.
Good morning, everybody. How's everybody? Good tune. Good choice of tunes this morning, Tom.
Oh, that was your choice, sir.
Well, I appreciate you obliging. This was an interesting song. You know, it came out in 1979, and I remember the back then it was really like the tail end of the disco era. You know,
right.
It was the last gasp of disco, 79, 80. And this song came out, and it had a really, like a new wave sound with the synthesizers and everything, and the mechanized drums. And it still sounds today, when you listen to it, it still sounds like it could be made in the future. But
it sounds like that alter future where the flying cars did happen.
Well, that's kind of, that was it's back then, if somebody thought of the future, that is the kind of vision that one got. But the song...
Synthesizers, flying cars, and huge amps.
Yeah, and it was really... I think this song has had a long life because it's still popular. I still hear it all the time on various radio stations. But the interesting thing was, it's a song about a guy, the car was basically a metaphor for isolation, being alone in your car, and life passing by on the outside. And the guy who wrote it, Gary Newman, was... he was on the autistic spectrum. I believe he was diagnosed as autistic, but more along the lines of Asperger's syndrome, where he was, he socially he was able to, get through what he had to get through in life. Obviously, being a famous musician, but he definitely was very. When you watch interviews with him and you watch, live performances, he was. He struggled with it, but it is a song about isolation. I think it's kind of appropriate for what's going on nowadays with the pandemic because, I want to touch on what you had mentioned earlier about the fact that usually you live in a town where the main street, there's usually something going on at night, no matter what night of the week. What happened when you tried to go out last night?
For a
little while.
I haven't had the urge to go out recently, so last night I wanted to, and I wanted to see what the deal was with the nightlife, especially on a weeknight. Right. And historically, I've never been a weekend go out type of person. I was a weekday go out type of person because that's what my job kind of called for. So I wanted to go to the main strip last night, have a couple drinks, and see some friends. Yep. And couldn't even get an Uber there, to avoid drinking and driving and all that.
Why not? Why would?
They're just because there's such a flood of people leaving Manhattan, on top of tourists from other states and things like that. They're all in the Hamptons. They're all in Montauk. And I've spoken to the drivers about it a few times. They're like, right now, my friend, the Hamptons is where the money is.
So anybody living along the way to the Hamptons is kind of out of luck is getting a ride.
And there's like strange times of the day where there's like rides available, and then there's just times where there's nothing. And oftentimes it's just when through passing, the driver will see it and he'll take you. But anyway, everything closed down. I mean, it was like 8:30 at night. And there was nothing I would have went to an empty main street.
That everything is shutting down a lot earlier, and it's when I pass through the main strip in the town that I live in, it's the same thing. I mean, it just seems at night there used to be some sort of it wasn't like walking down through an avenue in the city, but still there was a buzz of some type of nightlife going on, and now it's.
I mean, last summer
it's dead.
I could have went out any night of the week and had a good time and gotten home safe and whatever, the whole bit. But not this summer, that's for sure. It's just...
I believe gyms are opening up on the 24th, so that is a step in a positive direction. They're only able to accommodate, I believe, according to the rules, 33% of capacity, which goes in line with what you see in a lot of restaurants and shows and stuff like that. You have to wear a mask, which I'm imagining is probably not the most healthy thing while you're working out, to be wearing a mask.
No. It's not.
But at least it's a step.
So how does that work now? It's 33% occupancy, and
yeah,
what do you need to do? Book an appointment?
I imagine legally whatever. Yeah, I guess whatever is the capacity of the location, due to, as far as fire code goes, and
right.
You subtract, you do the math, and 33% of that is what you're allowed to have in maximum, and they. Yeah, I imagine what you have to do is if it becomes too crowded, there's going to be a line, and you have to book an appointment. I mean, it's still kind of a little bit of a shit show.
Like not coherent.
No, and I don't think, I don't know how they're going to enforce that and how rigidly it's going to be enforced on the government side.
Well, it was interesting. I was listening to an article, you could say, and a lot of people who reuse masks, you get this funky odor that's in the mask.
Right.
And what that is bacteria. It's your own bacteria. And there's real dangers to that too, just rebreathing your own bacteria. So.
Right. Well, unfortunately, like I said, I mean, this whole thing is it's a real imperfect reaction, and I just don't think that there's anything that's going to run really smooth yet. And until they, the gym especially, you have people there for a certain duration of time. So I don't know how that's going to run. And it's not, frankly, still to be an owner of that type of business. It's got to be daunting that only 33% capacity. You're still not making what you made in the past as far as profits go. So I don't know.
As I was saying yesterday too, it's the honeymoon phase.
Right.
Nobody really, right now it's like, oh, thank God we can open a little bit.
Sure.
I mean, it's not even enough. It's not even close to enough.
No.
There's still three-quarters of business that you need. So
businesses are really hurting. I mean, I know, like I said, myself, I had a choice, and that was to either, go back to the business that I had, prior to the shutdown. And, I had mounting bills, mounting debt. Was it worth it? And especially with the way the economy is now, or should I look elsewhere and, kind of take my work elsewhere? And that's what I decided to do. So, I don't know. I don't know what these businesses are and how long they're going to be able to withstand this type of drop off in their profit. But hopefully for people who enjoy the gym, I mean,
there's also a lot of loans going around and forgiveness, and so I'm sure some of these.
A lot of the forgiveness, for instance, the bank that I have my mortgage with, they're forgiving where they'll let you not pay for a month or two.
Right.
But then there's a lump payment. Right. Then there's a lump payment due after that takes place. So you're almost in a worse position by doing that. So either way, they got you in a vice there. So. There's no easy way out of this for people who are in a financial hardship due to the COVID. And I just hope that things do slowly go back to normal. And I know that everybody's saying a new normal, but I would really like to see it get back as closely. I just, to see people walking around with masks now for, indefinitely. I
don't know if that's a reality I want to embrace.
Yeah. I don't know. It's not the type of, it's not the type of normal I'm looking for the future. And I just hope, after the election and after hopefully the flu season passes and there's no real spikes, it seems to be pretty steady or on the decline in the state we're in. Hopefully that continues. And we'll see when schools open, when gyms open, and
when the flu season hits.
Right. This fall is really going to be a good.
Right now, August is the ultimate nail biter, I feel like. August, September, October.
We're right on the edge of the cliff, too.
We have the presidential elections. We have COVID. We have
hurricane season for where we live. Right.
Yeah, we're really we're in like the eye of the storm.
Right now, so the upcoming fall is going to be interesting as far as that goes. And like I say, hopefully everything gets back to normal. But
now every state has its own different educational plan, right?
Yes.
I mean, every district even.
Well, yeah, it's all based off of the state's curriculum. They have to, certain testing, certain curriculum that the students have to receive. But, each district they do things according to their own, the school board and the superintendent come up with the basis of the curriculum.
Sure.
And again, that's based off of the state model, and then it's distributed down through the administrators in the buildings, then down through the teachers, and ultimately to the students. So it's going to be interesting how they do it, especially being open.
Do you think that
only
once
3
there's like
days.
the first case of COVID in the school, all the teachers are going to flip and just walk out?
Well, that's what I've been hearing. I have some friends in other states where the schools have opened, and it seems that they're doing, quick shutdowns when COVID comes up. They do shut it down fairly quickly, and they did that. I know a couple of sports teams had a quick spike in COVID, and they basically shut them down for several days.
But then they came back, right?
Yeah, then they've come back. But schools, yeah, like I said, there was a woman I spoke to in Georgia, and her particular town, they shut it down really quickly. I believe it was 1 or 2 cases were reported, and that was it. They shut the school down. Now the kids are going back again. So,
So it's going to really just be a battle of they're going, they're not going, they're going, they're not going, they're going, they're not going. It's never going to stop.
I'll tell you, being a student when this is going on, especially somebody who is, trying to get into colleges and stuff like that. I mean,
Sure.
It's definitely a difficult journey. I mean, nobody really knows for sure because it's all based on what this.
It's all based on the numbers.
It's all based on what this sickness does, and how it reacts to the measures that have taken place. And
I want to kind of create a counter abbreviation to Andrew Cuomo's New York strong, tough, loving. Do you see when he does that little?
No.
He's like.
I'll be honest. When he's on, I try to avoid his. I know you gotta listen to the governor at times to get the information but he just.
Well, ever since the beginning of
drives me
COVID,
crazy.
it's not new. He's just every time he mentions New York, he gives like several bullet points as to what we are as New Yorkers: disciplined, courageous, loving.
Gotcha.
And being tough. You could say. I
Gotcha.
love you.
So
I
Andrew,
kind of want to think of like
Andrew's telling us what
we
are
are
as New
and what we're
Yorkers.
not. Right.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yep.
Well,
Not that there's anything wrong with being loving, but it's. I know a few
well,
New Yorkers
considering
who
he
are
was
none
the
of the
guy
above.
that came out and was telling people basically tough. You own a business, tough. The alternative is death. I mean, that was what really turned me off on Cuomo was the way he spoke and the lack of empathy he had for other people that were in difficult situations.
He had his 15 minutes of fame at the DNC.
Oh boy, he was. He's been riding this whole thing for all it's worth to boost his, and to have his brother come out also and talk about him being the best governor that he's ever seen, and it's almost laughable.
Nothing brought more of like a ironic smile to my face when the rioters attacked the CNN building in Atlanta.
Oh, it's
I don't
ironic.
know if you saw it.
I didn't actually see it.
I
read
watched
about
it live.
But yeah, it's very ironic though that
It was a war.
It's like the bees are attacking the nest, That's what it
Yeah.
seems like, yeah.
And it was bad because you had, let's say, 30 to 40 of these armed guards in the lobby of the CNN building.
Right.
And on the outside, all that separated them was that thin glass.
It's like an embassy in a foreign country. That's what it looked like.
Yeah,
You know,
and then you
imagine.
had an endless wall of people with skateboards.
The skateboarders banging on,
smashing
yeah.
the CNN windows,
very nice,
throwing
very
projectiles into the lobby
Our
with the
youth,
cops.
our youth, very nice.
And I also want to say, last night,
What is that with the skateboarders? How did they get all linked into this?
you never see surfers doing anything
No,
like that,
I don't
do
see
you?
a guy with a longboard banging on the.
you don't.
How did these skateboard guys get linked in with this? I mean,
I think it's I had my time as a skateboarder as a youth.
Yeah, I did too. I had a skateboard as a kid.
But
I mean,
it gets
I couldn't
to a
do
point
crap as
where-
far as tricks go, but I liked, I would ride this thing. I'd ride the skateboard down hills and, I'd ride it around the neighborhood. But how is it? It's like the outfit for a lot of these guys. It's like the black
Their
hoodie.
uniform.
Yeah, the black hoodie, the baggy black cargo pants, a knapsack that all their shoulders too are very sloped. They have very narrow shoulders, so the school bag would kind of. They don't have any actual books except for maybe communist manifestos
they're like on the
in
turtle
there. Yeah, but their shoulders slump, and they keep having to pull the knapsack up on their scrawny shoulders.
Yeah, well.
They have the mask.
And it's funny because...
And they're carrying a skateboard, and their skateboard is like they wield it as like their battle axe.
Yeah.
It's like the
occasionally,
uniform
the skateboard gets taken from them and used against
Good.
them. So that happens. But
that's like the Antifa uniform, I guess.
Well, this particular guy at the CNN building in Atlanta had a skateboard and was just wailing it on the glass facade of the building.
Hey, if there's ever a building that I'd like to see...
There was nothing but...
You know.
There was nothing but protesters, though, behind him, looking at him, laughing at him. He thought he was so righteous, I would imagine, in his head.
Why would they be attacking CNN, though?
Maybe there's...
That's like the mothership. I mean, what are they attacking with CNN?
I don't know, and I gotta be honest.
I don't think they know. I think a lot of these idiots go out, and it's like destruction for destruction's sake, you know?
Yeah.
And that's really what my problem is with this whole thing, was that there was no clear plan. I mean, everybody had those, everybody received copies of supposedly what the plan of attack was, and of Antifa and of some of these protesters and everything. But it doesn't. It's
also now such a skewed.
It just doesn't seem coherent.
No, it's not.
Yeah. So, but attacking CNN is interesting. That's like, you know,
they attacked Amazon. And now you have fleet and bus companies who are refusing to go to certain cities out of fear of protest. If the mayors and governors refuse to quell the violence, the truckers union is like not doing it. And same goes for Amazon. So we're going to touch
on that a little later in the episode, because that is a good point. I just wanted to really quickly talk about something I found interesting. You know, I was watching. Everybody's aware of the age question with Biden. When I was watching some of his ads online, and I was watching him speak and listening to it, it's almost like he doesn't even form coherent sentences sometimes. And what I mean is, he'll say, you know, "Hi folks, this is Joe. I need you to join us," and like he literally
skips parts of a sentence.
And words, he's placing words within the sentence that really don't belong there. And I'm not saying it as a joke, because dementia and you know, anything like that due to age, it's not a laughing matter. I don't wish that on anybody, but
you can't help but see it, though.
I saw it,
right.
I heard it, and I said, wait a second. Did he just say words that shouldn't actually be in the sentence?
Right.
So I rewound it, and like I said, he's literally sticking words in that just make no sense within the structure of the sentence. So
he's speaking liberal.
Yeah. Well, yeah, all of his message makes no sense, but now the words are actually, you know, not even fitting into the proper place. But what I also found interesting is this whole question of Biden's age, and he's only 3 years older than Donald Trump.
I know.
So you have a real juxtaposition there of guys who, you have one who's 77, then you have a guy who's 74, and literally looks like he is, I mean, you know, the jokes are made about his hair, the color of his...
Yeah, say what you want to say.
That's all vanity stuff, but as far as for a 74-year-old man...
He has a lot of virility.
And he doesn't follow, supposedly, his diet. He eats whatever he wants, and he's not on any strict regimen. But for a 74-year-old man to have the energy that he has... there was a question whether he was on upper... I mean, there's always going to be questions to anything nowadays with a public figure. But for a guy who's 74 to keep up the pace that he keeps up with, first of all, is astounding. And when you compare Trump to other people within his age group, it's interesting. And Biden is a real 3-year difference. It's really interesting. And like I said, Biden is he's the guy, type of guy that he has no real clear message. So there is a lot of room for error when he gets up there, because he's basically this he's a jumble of ideas and messages that the whole, all the areas of the party.
I love the memes. We're gonna a common theme on the show. I'm always gonna bring up a meme to you because
and
memes,
I now know what a meme is.
they're just the best.
Yeah. So.
There's always like Joe Biden like massaging someone's shoulders.
Yeah, well,
he's a creep.
He's a touchy-feely guy.
He's a creep.
He's very touchy-feely with girls.
Everybody raved about Trump because he was getting with porn stars back in the day.
Yeah.
But it's different when you're actually like creeping out on people on camera in public. Like the deals that I can't shy away from this. I'm just going to go for it.
No.
At the end of the day, what Trump was doing with Stormy Daniels, whatever happened.
Right. It's two adults.
Two adults, very consensual, very normal, very. That's what people do.
It's two adults. That's all. I mean, I don't feel like any adult, as long as you're not harming somebody else.
Right.
Two adults, whatever they do in the privacy of their own bedroom, I don't want to know about it. I could care less. It's when you're, involving things with minors, and again, we're going to touch on that when we do an episode on human trafficking.
For every liberal or Democrat leader who has now come out as being a total creep, be it Bill Clinton, be it Joe Biden.
He's creep number one.
Look at Andrew Weiner.
He's creep number one. Andrew Weiner is
disgusting.
Yeah,
These people are
despicable.
They're the ones who are.
But that's the thing that's. There's a lot of reasons that I shy away from that party, and I'm not a hardcore. I don't go either way hardcore, but there's a reason that I shy away from the Democrat Party, especially today, and that is I find that they are really big on pointing out everything wrong with the conservative point of view or Republican point of view, or even anybody that views them or doesn't agree with them.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Right.
And it's across the board.
They're the ones, when you really look at them, that have the most skeletons in that closet. And, I have a real problem with that. If you're going to say something or you're going to go after somebody for something, then you damn well better have your T's crossed and your I's dotted. And that
a good friend of mine was talking to me about these like protesters and just these people that support these leftist leaders, and it's like a lot of these people come off with this like moral high ground on telling you how to live your life, telling you how to exist, but go take a look at what their bedroom looks like. How many of them live in an organized, clean place? How many of them take care of themselves? How many of them are actually mentally coherent? I'm not. Hear me out. I'm not generalizing.
Right.
But what I'm saying is that most of these people are kids who mommy and daddy has to fold their laundry in their underwear.
Yeah.
Their bedrooms are probably a disaster, and they're out on the streets telling everyone that they're Nazis and that they're scum
causing
and that
causing
a ruckus.
Disruptions. Yeah.
You should listen to someone who actually knows what they're doing, though.
Right.
You should take advice from someone who is thriving. Not from people who are running around like chickens without heads, telling you have to make decisions overnight that affect millions of people. And that's what's happening right now. Well, and to be honest with you, the media is still not covering these protests that are happening in Portland like it's nothing. And to see it on local news in the morning every time I wake up, they actually said this morning it was one of the worst nights yet. It's like 80 days straight of protests.
So it's still happening.
It's still happening in Portland.
Well,
that's an American city, and would you go to Portland for anything?
There's nothing I would go to Portland for.
Me neither.
Absolutely nothing.
And I got to say, if you think what's going on over there is right, move to Portland. I'm sure they'd love to have you. Well, but it's like you have there's foot soldiers.
Yeah.
Who are out on the streets right now, thugging around, telling people what to do, keeping people in their homes.
And I'm going to tell you why there are certain cities, and I'm sure a lot of our viewers understand what's happening out there. But if there are people who are just wondering why certain cities, let's take for instance in Portland, you have the truck driver that was basically beaten within an inch of his life by protesters. Okay. Yep. The mayor of the city, Mayor Ted Wheeler, came out and he denounced violence. So, he denounced violence of any kind in his city and this and that. I always found the word denouncing to be like a placeholder. Sure. And it's a word that you're appeasing the right because you're not supporting what went on with this beating, but you're also not taking a hard line stance or a hard enough stance against the animals that attacked this guy. But,
You're either for it or you're against
right,
it. There's no in between
right.
when it comes to violence.
And I would also, I'd like to hear from a politician like that, where something like that goes on, lay it out. If something like this transpires, if there's another citizen of this country who gets harmed in my city in any way, these protests are going to be shut down. That's it. And not I denounce violence and then just leave it open-ended, where that's going to do absolutely nothing to quell it. Come out, take a hardline stance against it, and of course he can't, because he's not really against it. At the end of the day, the only time any of these liberal mayors are against it is when the marchers or the protesters come on their front lawn,
right.
Because eventually these idiots eat their own anyway. There's never going to be a time when they're going to get their way and things are going to go the way they want, and they're going to live in peace and harmony. They're always going to find some type of disruption or something they're unhappy about, because at the end of the day, they're unhappy with themselves, a lot of these young people.
Yeah,
they really are.
You saw it firsthand.
I saw it firsthand, and I got to tell you, whoever was at the protest that was for it, and I've had people who've come out online against me and, say I'm a racist, I'm this and that. The only reason I was at this protest, and the people that I brought with me, were to make sure that there was no violence in my town. If there was an idiot on my side that came out and did anything against anybody, yep. I would never support that. And I said several times before that, do not engage with them. Do not have any violence. That's not what we're here for. But I got to tell you, when these protesters approached us, they were anything but nice. They were anything but calm. They were shouting derogatory terms. They were trying to engage us.
Not just that, but they were leaving hateful speech spray painted on buildings,
right,
that the business owners then had to spend their own money to fix, because the town turns their back and allows anarchy to fly. And I always pose the question, if the shoe is on the other foot, mm-hmm. if Americans, people who love this country, patriots, you don't even have to be a patriot necessarily to love this country, just someone who...
Right.
If the shoe was on the other foot, what would the town do?
As far as what? What do you mean if the shoe?
It seems to me like if you're a patriot and you come out to counter-protest, or I don't even like the term counter-protest. Suppose you want to go out there and just hold an American flag.
We're not protesting anything. We were out there to prevent violence from taking place in our town, because these idiots distributed propaganda pictures that were saying they're going to, commit violent acts in the town. And look,
it's your turn, right? Wasn't that on the
yeah, they were basically saying, like, let's show them
what their privilege does for
them,
or
this
something.
And that, and they had it was all written with a fire under it, and it was the same three bird brain white housewives that came out against me every time, that were saying oh, Smithtown is a racist town, this guy and his friends were racist. They will never catch any picture, photograph, or video of me saying anything racist. They will never have a picture of me harming anybody in any way. Yep. That's not what I was there for. But like I said, reality is reality. And when these guys came in and they marched into our town, one of their chants was, suck our, and then they were, F the police, F Trump. Like, it wasn't like they came in to peacefully protest. And the guys, there were guys on their side literally looking at us like, come on, mother effer, come on. They were trying to engage us in violence so that the fools with them could say, look, these guys.
Yeah, look what happened.
I have no tolerance for it. I'm not going to back down to it. And that is the problem. When people back down to these fools, what happens is then it's like they all descend like hornets on them. If let's say it's a newscaster who says something out, or speaks out against one of these protests, and they will call for their resignation. They will call for just cancel these people out, destroy their livelihood, anything they can do to harm this person for basically just stating their point of view if it's not in line with theirs.
Yeah, not a racist word leaves your mouth, by the way. That's the funny thing. And it's...
You're stating reality. I mean, you're stating things that you believe. If somebody experiences something within their lifetime or doesn't experience it or doesn't witness something, then that is their reality. Because you feel something is different or something else doesn't give you the right to then cancel somebody else out. And that's what was happening. Because I went down, and I had a group, my partner and I, who just decided to get some people to come down and just to make sure that there was no violent acts going on in our town. We were, on any site that these fools could get on, they were throwing the racist tag at us. And it's the same 3 white women that were doing it every time. And so I decided, you know what, let me look into their lives a little bit. And I got to tell you, it was the worst Jerry Springer episode you could possibly think of when you look at their lives. So I kind of left it out there that if they continue to come after me, I'm going to air their dirty laundry out all over the place. And people, and it's almost like it's low-hanging fruit to go after them because they're such bozos. Yeah. But
well, I'm not being intimidated by them. I'm not being bullied by them.
No, it only empowered me to do to take it further.
And that's what's happening. Obviously there's a really deep divide happening, and there was always red states and there was always blue states. But now what's happening is there's like huge demographic changes of people who are leaving, going to conservative states and vice versa. So not good. And everyone's ticked off. Everyone has an opinion on it, that's for sure. And
the problem is, I don't care about the differing opinions. I don't care if their view is different. That's what makes the country great. I mean, you have all these different views from both sides, and eventually, hopefully, you settle somewhere on a middle road and everybody's happy.
Sure.
But the issue becomes when the other side looks to basically shut down whatever viewpoints you have or whatever you're bringing to the table because it's not in line with theirs. Years ago, you would see this it wasn't this just battle where one side was looking to basically stomp out the other side. I mean,
let me tell you, it's not gonna go good for the left, because at the end of the day,
no, it's not.
It's not.
It's not.
It's a
reality
losing battle
is reality,
at the end of the day for them, and I know that in my heart, because you're not gonna steal this country who defeated Hitler, who defeated the Japanese Empire,
right,
who defeated the Confederacy,
right, who defeated England to gain their own freedom.
Freedom.
Yep.
You're not going to just steal that away from people who love this country.
No.
So that.
And the problem too is when you look at the fools, like I said, when I looked into the people who were coming out against me, you're not talking about the best and the brightest that America has to offer. Mm-hmm. A lot of these people are just, for lack of a better term, they're lowlifes. They have nothing better to do. They were probably ostracized or weren't a popular kid in high school, so now their way of belonging to a group or lashing out against this, who they think this imaginary group that was against them when they were young, now they belong to a group and they feel like this is their chance to kind of shine.
Yeah.
And that's, like I said, when I was looking at the people coming out against me, that's basically what it was. It was a bunch of people who, when they were in high school, you wouldn't know that they existed, and I don't care. That's fine. It's everybody's different. I never cared about that stuff. But, it was like the second they felt this right to kind of lash out and cancel other people, it was like they gained this power.
And the great irony was, everyone stay in your home. Nobody come out.
Right.
Coronavirus.
Right.
Alert. Leave your job. You don't have a job anymore. It's life or death.
Right.
Boom. Enter the protests.
Yeah. And the protests are okay. If you're out for any other reason other than protesting, you're going to be disciplined. I mean, how much stupidity can they throw at us to the, it's ridiculous.
I think it goes deep.
It does go deep.
One of our favorite authors and radio personalities says liberalism is a mental disorder. and that really caught some traction because you hear that thrown around a lot now.
You could see it when you look at some of these people. It is a mental disorder, but
Did you see the clip ever of when Trump actually got elected? There was like that person, I don't know where it was, but they were just like crying and freaking out.
Oh yeah. Well, they had the
Oh man, that's what I do.
They had
That's
the
what I
various clips where they went from like CNN to
Oh.
all the hubs of liberalism, and these people looked like somebody murdered their.
I wish I
member
could
of their
play it on
family.
the screen
Yeah,
so
yeah.
people could
It's-
just. But it's very
guys,
common.
It's okay.
She's wearing like I don't know. Forgive me for assuming gender. I think it was a she. I'm not sure. Very androgynous, but just flipping out, like almost like a demonic possession because Trump got elected, and whatever.
Families were
tough
divided. In
cookies.
fact, my business partner stopped. His wife's family was very anti-Trump, very pro-Hillary, and the second that Trump won, my business partner's wife had said something like just yeah, whatever. And we Trump 4 years wasn't like really rubbing it in or anything, and there were some teenagers on her side of the family that basically
like went nuts.
was you're a
white
housewife.
supremacist Karen.
You don't know what you're talking about because the people that said it were college age, supposedly the educated young people, and
The brightest.
Yeah, so they put her down and basically told her she was stupid and didn't know what she was
Right.
talking about. But families were divided over this, and I mean it's
that's what
like,
happened in the
I've never
Civil War.
seen an election taken so personally.
Yeah. Well, in the Civil
God.
War, it was brother against brother. I
Yeah,
read a book
well-
in middle school that was
Yeah.
actually based on a family who was separated, and
Well-
one brother was in the Confederacy and one brother was in the Union. And
I'm sorry to interrupt you,
it's-
but I don't think even then it was felt as I don't think that people felt it was almost like it was because of where they lived. They kind of had to. I don't think that there was this deep running hatred on a lot of the young members of the Confederacy against America. I don't feel that it was that the way these people hate Trump today, and the colleges preach all this anti-right rhetoric, and I don't know. I don't know if it's ever been as bad that way as it is today. It's hard to tell. I mean, I wasn't around in the mid 1800s, but reading documents and reading diaries from some of the young Confederate soldiers, a lot of times you see them saying, "I can't wait for this stupid war to be over. It's got nothing to do."
Right, and it's a rich man's war.
Yeah,
a poor man's
yeah. I
fight.
mean, it's
Which is always the case,
That's
by the
always
way.
the case in warfare. So I don't think it was even as deeply felt as it is today, and it's
I'll
just.
tell you one thing. Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I don't
But
know, like I
also
said, but it's something that I always think about. Like, are these kids? They don't even know what they're raging against. They really don't. They don't know.
They listen to Rage Against the Machine a few times. They go to Wall Street. They see it. They get angry. They get triggered.
Well-
it's like there are some people who are constantly looking for something to be offended by.
The American education system, unfortunately, nowadays breeds this type of
It
these
actually
viewpoints.
promotes it.
Yeah,
It
it
waters
promotes it and it provokes it. And again, like I said, I'm going to lay out eventually what I really feel has to take place as far as an education reform in this country.
Is this
But I will,
the groundwork for a potential presidential bid?
No.
Or
Yeah, one day, right? We're all in trouble if I ever win that.
the Future History Party?
If I ever win the presidency, that's basically
I would never want that job.
it was a nice country, guys. So it's a wrap.
I just also want to say, I mean, it's the first time I was eligible to vote, I voted for Obama.
You bring up something interesting because when you
Come
were
a little
young,
closer.
you were extreme. I don't want to say extremely liberal, but your viewpoints were much more liberal.
Yeah.
And I remember I used to say to you, when you're out on your own and you're supporting yourself, you're going to feel a lot different about things. And
Oh, how true
I've
that was.
noticed such a change in you.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like it was ever forced on you. I
You
don't
never
think,
told me.
No, I
Mom
never.
never told me.
No, we never forced any. But I just told you, like, before you
Being
take,
in the real world.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
having to deal with jack-offs
Right.
on a daily basis in an industry
Right.
like being in a kitchen.
not
for
being
example.
protected by the school system as a student,
Right.
a full-time student.
Right. That makes you, it's the snowflake syndrome. Everybody has their own little thing. But at the end of the day, it's just me and nobody, I have a lovely family and I'm very blessed for that. But if we didn't have each other, nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
And that is the way the world works. And I want,
It's something in my family that also, and I'm not saying that all, there are a lot of liberals that take care of themselves, support themselves, and that's not what I'm saying. But I just find in a lot of cases, and my father used to say this to me as well. He would say, look, when you're out on your own and you're supporting a family, your viewpoints could be very different than they are right now. And they were. I was never a screaming liberal or a major Democrat, but it changed.
To your
when I had
point,
a
though,
family.
about when I was in my liberalism phase, I really had no good reason why I felt that way. I'm thinking back to it.
Yeah. Yep.
There was nothing other than maybe just, people around me feeling that way that gave me a reason to feel like I was on the left side of things. But now I actually have a good reason for why I feel how I feel. And it's not to say that I'm a Republican. It's not to say that I'm a Democrat.
Yeah.
I like the idea of libertarianism. And I know it's a hard pill for some people to swallow
Sure.
because that
Sure.
would be such dramatic cuts to the government but in essence, if you look at the Constitution, it was supposed to be a small government.
Right.
Enter libertarianism.
Yep.
It's a hard pill for people to swallow
Government just
because
keeps growing and growing.
and they give these
and
programs to people that they never want to give up.
growing. Right. Well, that's what happens.
So
you
it's
become
like you're
reliant on it.
bribing people into big government.
You're bribing the votes. That's what you're doing. Yep. And
Meanwhile, the free market's always proven it could handle anything,
Sure.
including going to Mars.
Oh, it's very
So-
it's very durable, free market economy. And like my mother, who is a very educated woman, she was a school teacher. Then she was an ophthalmic dispenser, which basically means she's doing contact lenses. She's an educated woman, and she. As a kid, I remember she was a Democrat, and my father, who is not quite as educated but was in the business world, was a Republican. And now, when I had a small business, I ended up where my mother worked for me as a secretary and basically a bookkeeper. She ran the office for us. And I think seeing the struggles as a small business that my partner and I went through to keep it afloat and to keep people employed and working, her whole viewpoint on things changed. And she leans way more to the right now than to the
more
left.
than me.
Yeah. And
I have phone conversations
yes.
with her, and I'm like, the things that she comes out with,
yes.
I'm like,
yeah.
woo!
And this is a person who is now
But
in her
she's
70s.
brilliant.
Yeah.
So
this whole argument that the left is putting out there, it's there's a lot of
I
holes.
certainly think the left is losing more people than is being reported. I think that there's a lot of centrists out there who are like, geez, this really...
That's what the hope is, because if not, Trump's in trouble. So we got to hope that is the case.
What
But,
happened in the last election?
He
They
shocked the world.
Right.
He shocked the world. That's what...
I remember election night like it was yesterday, and I... man, it was an amazing thing to watch. It really was. And I love when Hillary Clinton was like, well, somebody with his temperament shouldn't be in the White House.
Yeah.
He goes,
Yeah.
because you'd be in jail.
Yeah.
And and you don't really ever
that was
see,
like the
crowd,
mic drop moment when he
yeah,
said that.
you don't
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
crowds erupt at these
Yeah.
like that.
Mhm.
You can hear it. Everyone's like,
Yep.
"Wah!"
Yeah. Yep.
So I think that, look, I could be wrong, and I'm only a human, so I'm okay with that. But my prediction is I think Trump is going to win this one. I mean, there's just...
I feel more confident of that this week than I did
Last week, right?
And hopefully that trend continues.
Well, how many Democrats don't support the violence either? I'm sure a tremendous portion of conservative Democrats are not
No.
They see the same things that we're seeing.
Yeah.
They see Lori Lightfoot or whatever her name is in Chicago. Like,
Yeah.
she looks like a deer in headlights.
Yeah, it's
right?
it's hard to,
They can't. They know that.
the party has a lot of weaknesses, and also, again,
The problem right now is that Republicans are not fighting, and
Right.
every report you read is Republicans are sitting on their hands. They're sitting on their hands. They're not attacking where they need to attack because they're trying to maintain composure. And then when Trump wins,
well, they're saying
gonna stand
that
up.
they do have a lot of bullets in the chamber that they're kind of waiting to unleash as time goes on, and I mean, this guy
Trump put
is,
together a good team.
Yeah, he
around
did.
him.
He did. I mean, he's made some.
Made some poor choices too.
But overall, I think that, you know what it is too? I think he realizes, hopefully, and I think a lot of the people around him realize, this team of Harris and Biden, I know there's a lot of people who trumpet Harris as this great choice. There's a lot of potential for a major snafu somewhere along the way for them. And there's a lot of opportunity there for this ticket to almost implode on itself. And I think they're waiting to see a little bit. Like, let them come out and say what they have to say.
I
and
think they're
let's
going to,
see.
like, stub their own toe.
That's what I mean. I
Yeah.
think that there's a lot of opportunity for them to make errors on their own, where Trump doesn't even have to show his
Trump
cards.
doesn't have to do much right now.
Right.
And that's why I think that we're actually in power right now, and I think that we have the upper hand, because, believe me, if there was something to worry about, Trump would be the first one to know it, I feel like, Or he's not going to tell you, because that's what smart businessmen do. They just
Right.
make decisions.
Well, that's what he's hoping to do. You want to show your cards at the last particular minute. And that could be in business dealings, it could be in politics. You don't want to just sit at the table with everything out in front of you and say, okay, this is what I have. Because they'll just eat you alive, especially the press. And
It's got to be strategic.
it has to be strategically planned. And like I said, when he's no dummy. He's not sitting across from opponents that I don't think he sees this as a hard race at all.
I don't think so either. I think it's just...
It's a matter, though, of the people who are undecided. In this case, because there are a lot of people that are disappointed that the wall didn't go right up. The wall was a metaphor, I think, for what he
believes.
Right.
But he should, the wall just got 10 feet high.
I
Sometimes
know.
he says outrageous.
Sometimes he
outrageous.
steps on his own feet.
Yeah,
that
no, he
without
does.
without a doubt.
But that is the organic quality. And I use that
Right.
word a lot.
Right.
But
it is.
He is an organic person
Yes.
who gives you what you get.
Yes.
And he tweets on his phone. He does what he does. And whatever he says, he says.
Right. See, that's why I don't like Biden at all.
Right, because everything is sinister. Everything is premeditated.
Biden literally just looks like, if you kind of opened up his head, you'd see every idea from any other politician in the Democratic Party just like pumped into it. And it doesn't seem like he even has any views of his own. And I think as the race goes on, he's going to be exposed. And I think that they are going to be able to expose Harris. I think Harris has a chance to say some really inflammatory things, and the right will have a chance to pull that apart. But I just don't see Biden as a worthy adversary for Trump in the race. I don't. And, I think there was an initial jump, which always happens when the candidate announces his running mate or whatever. There's that initial bump, and they got that. But I'm starting to see some drop off with the polls and the pundits that are saying, this is going to be a tough race for the right, for the left rather. So
I think it's going to be harder for them.
I do too. Like I said, I was saying, the initial bump that they get, they got that already, and now it's like the dust is settling, and we're really going to see what this ticket is about.
Yeah, now it is what they.
I always thought, I never even when Biden was vice president, I just saw him as a weak, like I never thought he would be a wise choice to run for president, and I'm shocked. I'm shocked that they chose him to be the candidate.
I agree with you, actually. I thought the race might have actually been harder somehow if Bernie Sanders went against Trump. Even though Bernie Sanders is a tuna stain, but I mean he can at least argue. Whereas, like, Biden...
I never saw Biden have any bite to him. I never saw him have... like, you brought up a good point about Trump, like him or hate him. he is what he is.
Oh yeah.
And there's a genuine person, for better or worse. At least you know there's a genuine person there. Biden, it's almost
Biden's
like
weekend at Bernie's.
I feel like it's almost like they shut him off at night.
Yeah.
And he just goes to sleep.
It's
and,
like the
you know,
Godfather thing, the puppet master. He's like got strings attached.
Yeah,
to him
yeah. I
and he can
feel
go.
like he's just a puppet on a string.
Yeah.
And that's what, you know.
That's what I love about Trump is that he's unhinged.
Yeah.
He's not on. We're on his string.
To his detriment at sometimes, you know,
Well,
but he at least says what he feels.
Nowadays, the climate in the world is so difficult. Everyone is so tense. Countries are turning their backs on other countries. There are parts of Europe that are starting to kind of like get weird again. So we need
Europe is a real wild card nowadays as far as
you don't know what you're gonna get.
Yeah, you don't know what you're gonna get, and
it's gorgeous. A lot of it's organized, but it's like strictly in the West.
Yeah.
When you go to the east of Europe, it really starts to get a little fishy again,
it's
and that's always
murky.
where the trouble
and
starts.
They're still operating in the East under Cold War politics in a lot of these countries. The Soviet Union has fallen apart, but you're still seeing remnants of it, and it's eventually
gonna come back
It's
to it.
right. Eventually, it's still gonna.
It was never a sealed deal.
Look,
you know?
Putin was a former KGB agent. I mean,
Right.
it's enough said where his allegiance lies. So, but you know, even the immigration policies, as they've loosened in Europe, the countries themselves have really begun to take on a different identity, and it's tough. You don't know. It's a crapshoot. You don't know what you're going to get over there nowadays.
A huge issue, and this is going to be like the last segment of the day, but a huge issue is a lot of people nowadays, the World War II generation's kind of really gone away. There are some.
Sadly.
But those are the really, I know that Vietnam vets, God bless them, thank
Yep.
you for your service, but World War II was like a war of a different kind.
Correct.
That was a monster.
Correct.
And nowadays, youngsters, they have Saving Private Ryan, they have movies, but you don't have your grandpa or your grandma who was a nurse or really dealt and saw the horrors of what was going on.
Yep.
Explaining to children what happens when you let these things continue.
Both of my grandfathers were veterans of that
Exactly,
war, so.
and I wanted to kind of bring that up. I imagine they're like heroes to you in some way or another. And
my father's father was a career Navy guy. He, lied about his age when he got into the Navy to get out of an orphanage. And he joined the Navy, and he ended up staying in the Navy for 35 years. Was a career Navy man, and that's what he did. And he was one of the guys that shot the cannons on the USS Missouri. He lost his hearing in both ears as a result of it.
What a sacrifice.
I tell you, unfortunately, due to his hearing loss, I was never really able to
communicate with him
as much as I would have liked to,
Yeah.
and the questions that I would have had for him. But my other grandfather was in the Fiji Islands and was in, all over the Pacific. So, those people, it was a different generation of Americans.
That generation really also
Never to
held
be-
us,
you know-
was a little bit of a glue
Yeah, absolutely.
for the past 50, 60
Absolutely.
years. Because they were looked at as the greatest generation.
Yep.
And the sacrifices they made. I mean, you had Americans from all different backgrounds.
Yes.
Who come from different countries. And
Yep.
they all went there to fight, and they all fought valiantly. And
The strength that America showed in the 80s was a lot of the remnants of that World War II generation.
Right.
Consequently, the total chaos going on in this country is a result of the leaders being the remnants of the 60s generation. And I just think that
100%.
That's
boomers.
Right. And for all the change that a lot of these people brought about in the 60s, not all of it ended up being for the better. And we're seeing that today. And I just hope, we've talked about, hopefully
one thing that we have going for us is that when immigrants come here, they want a better life more often than not.
Correct.
And that is the backbone of this country.
Yes, immigration, it is, it's just unfortunately.
But
Go ahead.
my point is, and I've said this to you before too, a lot of these people are not, they don't want to leave a socialist hellhole to come to another socialist hellhole. Because believe me, they are educated in their country about what America is. They know.
Yeah, well, you've had extensive conversations with people
I
in
really
other
have. And I try
quote unquote third world nations. You've had some real,
I certainly have. And people love America for its cowboy past and its
Right.
and its wild ways and us never agreeing
Right.
to just settle for deals. And that's what we were
Correct.
doing from the 90s to the till pretty much Trump got in
Right.
office, was we settled for every stupid deal that
We
got thrown
fleeced,
across our desk.
especially by China.
Correct.
You know?
And the minute we want to say enough's enough, it has nothing to do with racism. It has nothing to do with sexism. It has nothing to do with any social issue. It has to do with the fact that we're getting scammed financially
Right.
to keep the world safe. And it's not fair.
No, it's not.
And it
fair.
puts a lot of pressure on our backs.
Yes, it does, the taxpayers. And, that is a point that I can't drive home enough, is that people from other countries, the reason that they like America, for all the things that a lot of these young people that are fighting, raging against the machine today, a lot of them don't realize that a lot of these other countries around the world, the citizens love America for the very things that
makes America
right,
America.
Right.
Right.
And,
that's
this,
not
this
just this-
view of racism in America is not. You're seeing protests in other countries around the world that are backing these protesters here, but the majority of citizens around the world do not see this racism in America that we're talking about today. That a lot of these protests are talking about, and I just think that it's one of those things where the youths in this country have never really had to fight for anything. They've never had to defend the country and their own families and their own, and it's, you're seeing the direct result of it.
Well,
So,
at least, in all facets of our family, we have some heroes.
we absolutely do.
On mom's side, on your
Yeah.
side. And,
All military and,
to be 100% honest with you, that is where I get this like fierce attitudes towards our opposition, because I have relatives who personally fought monsters.
Right. Fought for our way of life.
Fought for just
the good fortune.
you want to
that
talk
we
about
have.
the greater good. So that is pretty much.
Well, on that note, I think that we're going to touch on this further as the days go on, and hopefully, we come up with a plan as a country to unite both sides. And this election season is going to be interesting to see where everything heads, and hopefully everybody on the.
We're certainly going to have a lot of coverage for the next. Up until the election. I mean, it's an every day. Every day it seems like there's.
Hopefully everybody can, unite for the greater good. It's always a hope. I mean, the sides have never seemed farther apart than they are today. So let's just hope for, cooler heads to prevail. And we will see you guys same time tomorrow. Everybody have a good day.
We will be talking to
Talk
you
to you
soon.
tomorrow.
We're gonna probably leave off today with Chevrolet Van from the Nude Party. Have a good Wednesday, everybody.
I got some free advice just the other day from an older relative of mine. He said, I dig what you do, but I think you're wasting your time. Yes, I do. Because driving around and getting drunk with your friends in a van every night, yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun, but you need a plan B, 'cause it ain't gonna